All right, guys, here we are. We're back on the Godzilla motor. So after the cam swap, I actually noticed that something wasn't looking right with some of the parts that I got. And good thing I double checked part numbers and everything else, because some misunderstanding happened when I was on the phone with BTR, and that was related to the push rods. So they had actually sent me 7.85 long, 11 30-seconds diameter, 80 thou wall. Okay, and those are wrong. Those are actually LT based push rods. So we got the correct guys here that work with the Truck Norris cam. They are 8.4 inches long and a 3/8 inch diameter. And we're going to be installing the correct push rods in here. We'll retorque the rocker arms down, and then we're going to get to installing the Holley front timing accessory drive stuff. So let's get at it. Really not much difference. Got the valve covers back on, push rods are installed, rockers are torqued down to 20 foot-pounds of torque. Everything looked good there, no worries. So now what I want to see about doing is getting these fuel rails for the Harrop Blower assembled. So they come pretty bare as a rail, and then these are the mounting brackets with the hardware sitting down here, and we'll swap the injectors over and should be able to run these guys, and that is most likely going to give us the clearance that we need to actually get the Harrop on top here. So of course there's a couple other determining factors. I need to take the thermostat off, and then our thermostat housing, and then this water line out as well, because a lot of stuff is going to change on the front side here. So really what I want to do is I just want to make sure that the Harrop is going to sit on here and that everything is going to clear. This isn't going to be the full Harrop install, which it's really straightforward because the blower is really just taking place of the upper intake manifold. But with that said, let me get these fuel rails sorted, and we'll be able to kind of mock things up and make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And who doesn't really want to see the Harrop sitting on the top of this motor as well? So let's get at it. All right, guys, well, the camera overheated and you weren't looking. The Harrop did sit on here. Now, I'm excited that we had it on there. Like I said, I don't want to spoil anything, and I want to make the Harrop installation a full video on its own. We'll probably set it on here when we're done, and the reason for that is I don't actually know if the Harrop is going to clear the Holley high mount accessory drive system. And all right, one of the motors is going to get the accessory drive, and one of the motors is going to have the factory timing cover set up with the Crowbar Customs oil pan that I got sitting underneath this box right here. This oil pan here utilizes the factory timing cover, which is a nice option. So I got that sort of as a fail-safe and sort of proof of concept, so I could show you guys that you could go either which way depending on what look and feel you're going for. And other than that, the biggest reason is you need the oil pan changed for K-member clearance and everything else. So both motors, it really doesn't matter which is which, right? The black notches headers are the black Cerakoted ones, and the bare finished ones are the one for the Calypso car. So worst case scenario, if the Holley mount doesn't work with the Harrop here, then we'll switch the headers, and then the Harrop will ultimately end up going on this motor, which will retain all the factory accessories. But I think we're going to be okay. So you can see here, I've pulled off the thermostat housing and the main heater line here, and I've undone all the bolts on the oil pan. Oil pan's actually stuck on with RTV from factory, so we're gonna have to pry that guy off. And then we're gonna get to doing all the prep and everything that we need to do to get the high mount drive system on, including our new oil pump that's sitting right here. So I've gone through the directions and everything seems pretty straightforward. You should follow the directions and read through them before you begin any project, which I guess is kind of part and parcel to any installation setup. Now, speaking of which, so here is the installation stuff, gives you all the specifications and everything that you need. First things first here, so obviously we've removed the damper, pulley, timing cover, drivetrain, the oil pump drive. Obviously, once I pull this bolt out, we'll be able to take this off and we'll see how everything goes. But I just want to make sure, black plastic pin above the oil filter that must be removed before removing the oil pan. So I can see it right here. So let's get this guy off, and hopefully we can do so with these headers and pull this little pin out. I'm not sure how that works or why we need to pull it before pulling the oil pan off, but again, follow the instructions. Okay, that sort of makes sense. There you go. Boom. Reverse mount sensor, look at that. One thing that I want to point out, which is maybe a little bit confusing, is the oil pump drive here. So see how there's this smooth edge that actually needs to face forward. And what was tripping me up is that when it faces forward and you go to put the pump on, if you push it all the way back, it's gonna touch stuff. But keep in mind, the pump is actually gonna get bolted from the backside here. So this should actually pull the pump and keep it from touching anything. So it will kind of trip you up initially, but the orientation of that is designed for a reason. And it says the smooth outside ring should be oriented forward. So I'm following the directions despite what's happening here, and I assume everything will be okay. Lubed up all the O-rings, a little bit of oil, made sure that everything is clean. Alright guys, so here's the Harrop mounted on the top of the motor, and excuse the voiceover because my microphone completely died. So as you can see here, well maybe not exactly, but the Harrop doesn't fit with the high mount accessory drive system, and I'm pointing back there at the Holley saying we're going to have to put the Holley on here, and that ultimately that will be the motor for the Calypso notch. And that the Harrop is going to have to go over to the other motor. So overall, the Holley high mount accessory drive kit was a lot of parts, and I mean a lot. I actually do not have the oil pan bolted on in the video here, and that is because they forgot to send me the oil transfer tube, which goes between that new pump on the front side of the motor down into the oil pan where it sucks it back up from the rear pickup. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, folks. Going to now move on to the other motor and get the Crowbar Customs oil pan on, so that way we can have both of these motors ready to go. So don't go anywhere, stick around, because you will see the Harrop on top of that other motor. All right guys, we're back here playing Godzilla, and the mic sort of dropped out at some of the recording that I did after buttoning up a lot of the Holley high mount accessory drive setup here on this Godzilla. And what we did is we took the Harrop and we tried to place it on here to see if it would clear the Holley setup, and unfortunately it does not. And you can make it fit if you don't want to run AC. If we look right here, it's mostly because, and you can see how close this AC compressor and bracket is to this intake manifold, which is all designed to work together here. So if we look over here at the Harrop, this is all the bypass valve setup and everything else, and where this guy sits is right where the AC compressor would be. So unless you have a way to modify and move this somewhere else, the high mount system is out for you guys. So it's not the end of the world, but it's an important point to note. And as mentioned, all of the Holley stuff is designed to work together. So if you want to run that shallow Holley pan, well, you got to run the Holley timing cover. You cannot run the factory timing cover, because all of this changes the oil pump drive. So it goes from the chain driven shaft setup that I showed you guys earlier to a front mounted pump down in the front there, and completely changes the dynamics of everything. So if you guys want to run a Harrop, or maybe you don't want to invest in all of this and you want to take all the accessories that came with the motor that you got, whether you got it through me or you got it out of the wreckers or whatever else, and you want to utilize all those accessories, well, here's your solution. Custom oil pan from Crowbar Customs. And this was made by Ralph, the same individual that makes those air inlet tubes that are sitting back there in the on the shelf. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy mocked up, look at the directions and see what it takes to run this one. I'm assuming this actually utilizes the factory windage tray and everything else, so which is kind of a neat thing. You can see a little stubby pickup assembly here. We'll go ahead, knock this oil pan off, and see what it's going to take to get it installed. All right, guys, more voiceover here just to kind of give you guys an understanding of getting this factory oil pan off, getting that oil cooler off the side, and you can see there the ring gear for the oil pump drive. And I'm scraping away the gasket because there is no gasket. They actually use silicone from factory for both the oil pan and the timing cover, believe it or not. And this install is actually very straightforward. You can see that backing plate there on the back side of the pump assembly. That comes off and that gets replaced with a different plate that's provided by Crowbar Customs. And so that plate will ultimately go on in its place and is going to allow us to mount up a stubbier oil pickup component, and that will give us our shallow pan that we need for proper FoxBody clearance. So some T30 bolts, if I remember correctly here, all the torque specs are provided by Ralph. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of what you need to do to get that assembly on, and just follow the instructions. To be honest with you, this one is actually easier than getting the Holley pan on by far. So it just kind of takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time. There is, I guess, a method to the madness, if you will. So make sure you follow the instructions and the procedure accordingly. There's a couple studs on there that are utilized for like a, I guess, anti-splash plate, just to make sure that the oil is getting located towards the pickup area there. And just take your time and all should be good. Pan is on, sealed up, all the hardware, everything's torqued on. As you can see here, factory oil pump drive gear and chain tensioner reinstalled, and it's pretty nice looking piece that will clear the Team ZK member that we will be using right there in the Black Fox. So we'll timing cover, I'll just kind of have as a placeholder because we got to decide if we're getting some stuff powder coated and cleaned and prettied up before final timing cover install. But other than that, all the hard work is done motor wise. So if you guys are interested in one of these pans that utilizes the factory front timing cover, I will put the link to Crowbar Customs down in the description, so be sure to check them out. And super nice piece, everything went together the way it should. No weird things that didn't line up or didn't fit. Everything was bang on, so really impressed with this kit.